All right, guys, it's Coach Carroll. You're in the Sales Factory, back with another episode here in Season 5. Oh, boy. Hope you guys got your notepads out for this one. I got Josiah Hartley. Dude's been in the insurance game for 7 years, did almost $400,000 of premium just last month. Josiah, welcome to the Sales Factory, baby. Welcome. I'm excited to have you here. I know we met for the first time out in Phoenix at the Farmers Mega Conference, right? You were up there cutting it up on the stage. You and a couple of my other good friends that I've made in the insurance business.
Talented people out there.
Oh, dude, that was a really good event. Those were some big players. But welcome, brother. Excited to have you in the Sales Factory.
Man, I appreciate you having me on. Great to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, for those of you that don't know, Josiah's been in the insurance business for about 7 years, in the industry as a whole for about 7 years, and I'm really excited because we're going to talk some acquisitions. He's bought some books, which you guys know that I'm a big acquisition fan and love growing through acquisitions, but also talks a lot about building a team, so we're going to touch on that today. And like I said, man, the guy did not him. Obviously, you have a team, right? Like, he would be a full-time guest if he was doing $400,000 in premium by himself, right? No, you've got a team. They're crushing it, and so I'm excited to hop in this. I always like to get your first time guest. So let's just educate the audience a little bit of background story of yourself. I got guys listening from that's doing $20 million in premium insurance businesses. I got guys that are top real estate agents that listen to the podcast. I got kids that are 13 years old that just bought their first lawnmower to start a little lawn care company. And so everybody's welcome in the Sales Factory. So I'll turn it over to you, Josiah. Why don't you take a couple minutes, just kind of intro yourself and tell us a little bit more about your background.
Well, I like the 13-year-old with the lawn business because I was 12 when I started my lawn business.
Let's go.
OG entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, man.
There's nothing that pays you as well whenever you're a teenager. Actually, that's funny. I was 12. I started a lawn business. I mowed lawns in my neighborhood and around. I'd walk around with my lawnmower and a backpack blower and a weed eater. My parents told me, whatever you can make by the time you turn 16, we'll match it. So I made $8,000 over like 4 years of mowing lawns, and they gave me $8,000. So I bought my first car. So shout out to anyone with a lawn business. Humble beginnings is a good place to go.
Man, I gotta tell you, because I don't think you know my background enough. I started my first business my senior year of high school, and it was a lawn care business. Started with $300, a Walmart weed eater, a Walmart lawnmower. My audience is like, God, DJ, we've heard this fucking story a million times. But I literally couldn't afford a blower. I bought a weed eater and a backpack blower. So I had a push broom, bro. And like after I got done mowing grass, I was push brooming sidewalks and driveways. Trust me, that was the first thing I invested in once I started getting some checks in. But hey, all greatness starts from the same place, right? So I love it. This just happens to be in the green industry.
You can mow lawns for a living, yeah. So you can make some money. You got some work ethic behind you. But no, I went from that. School wasn't my thing. I didn't do college, but I ended up being a personal trainer. I was into fitness. I was a personal trainer, and I was managing a gym and working kind of some insane hours. I was opening the gym at 4:30 in the morning. I was closing it at 10 p.m. at night. And one of my clients there was in the insurance business. He was an Allstate agent. He was like, man, as much as you're working, you should look at this insurance thing, go get your licenses. I'll kind of help steer you along. So I did that. And he introduced me to someone who was selling an Allstate book of business. So I started there. I bought a book. I was with the company for 3 years and then exited, and then been with Farmers for about 2.5 years now.
Wow. Very cool, man. Yeah, I knew you had a fitness background because when I seen you in Phoenix, I was like, that motherfucker's jacked, boy. There's a donkey.
I used to be a little more muscular. I joke now. I'm a little big, but I'm got like that dad softness to me all over a little bit.
I feel you, bro. Hey, I got a 9-month-old baby girl, and I've just been telling everybody I've been saving up my dad's softness for about the past 2 years. I knew she was coming. So no, that's so cool, man. That because I know the audience knows this as well. I had a fitness center that I purchased. Again, back to the acquisition thing. Ended up losing it. It's a bad story. We won't make everybody relive it because I don't want to relive it right now. But a real estate agent took me to the cleaners and lost $1 million damn near by the time it was all said and done.
Podcast, you and me, okay? It'll be cathartic for you.
Okay, perfect. We'll do therapy together. I like it, man. I like it. So you move out of that because it's working terrible hours. You're like, hey, I could maybe make some money in this insurance space. Did you come in scratch, or did you buy a book right off the rip?
I acquired a book of business, and it was absolutely terrifying because it was multiples were high. That's back like in 2017. And 2017, multiples were high, especially at Allstate. So I paid over a 3-time multiple on a $6 million premium book. And so you're talking about a couple $1 million in loans, and I had no insurance experience. So it was a very much like a back against the wall. I mean, first year, a little bit of a line of credit, maxed that to live on.
Oh
Credit
yeah.
cards were maxed,
Oh yeah.
trying to like figure it out and make it work. So it was scrappy. It was scary in the beginning.
So let's break that down for our listeners. And when you say a multiple, you paid a 3x multiple. Break that down for someone that maybe doesn't understand that completely.
Sure. So you take the business, the commissions or the revenue that was coming off of it. And so in today's market, you do see typically you might pay 1.5 or 2 times on revenue. So let's pretend it has 200,000 in commissions it's paying every year. If it
Yep.
paid 1.5 times, that purchase price would be $300,000. The 1.5 times 200. So
Okay.
back then it was a good sized book. Multiples were over 3. So I ended up paying about $2 million for the book of business. And so that was challenging to even get a loan for that. The covenants were crazy. There wasn't much cash flow. Had to play the max the bonuses game. So it was a very scary way to start. But I think people can be pretty effective when your back is against the wall and you have no choice but to succeed.
Yeah, man. Hungry dogs find a bone. You know what I'm saying? It's like people don't realize that. And it's so hard. I have several blog posts that I've written about this. I call it the broke bitch mentality. And it's when people go from being an employee into being an entrepreneur and they carry what I call the broke bitch mentality over, which is like debt is bad. I've got to manage my expenses down to the penny. And it's like, no, you just got to go make more money. Like once you move from the employee to the entrepreneur, to the business owner, or maybe even you can still be a salesperson, right? Like I still you hear this new term called intrapreneurship a lot. There's like a school of entrepreneurship. It's so funny because like in 2007 when I graduated high school, like I was the dummy that was throwing my life away by going and starting my business, right? Like now it's like the coolest fucking thing in the world to do.
They used to think entrepreneur meant unemployed. That was
right, yeah, unemployable.
For
yeah, man. But it's like I talk about that a lot to my audience because my mission as Coach Carroll is to weaponize the next generation of business leaders and their teams. And I focus on helping young entrepreneurs. And when I say young entrepreneurs, that could be that 13-year-old kid buying his first lawnmower. It could be a 60-year-old cat that just retired and is like, man, I'm going to go start my first business now, right? Like that guy could still be young. It doesn't have anything to do with your age. But I think the big thing is like what you said there was your back was against the wall. You piled on the debt. It was like it was go time. You had to, it's like shut up or put up type of deal.
Yeah.
And I think some of the biggest success stories that I know, some of the most successful guys that I know, they have those points in their life. It won't always be like that. Like the Bills, when people ask me, they're like, how you doing, coach? I'm like, oh, I'm doing good, man. The Bills don't come on pink slips anymore, so we're doing all right. It's like it's not like that forever, but I think those trials and tribulations, man, you gotta go through that. What do you think's like one of the hardest things that like did you ever have those moments where you're like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it out of this, like call it the fetal position, crying on the couch, like
I think we get that like once every 24 months, right? It just depends on where you're in a business cycle. Now, when I first started, it was funny. So I bought that book of business, and at the time, we didn't have any money. I was coming out of the gym stuff. We had a young kid, and my wife and I were living in like a 950 square foot apartment, 1 bedroom, paying $900 a month. And the debt, the service, the loan monthly amount was $20,000 on the business, So I'm telling my wife all this, and she's going through it, and she's like, gosh, what if this doesn't work? What if we go bankrupt and they come and they take everything? I'm like looking around, and I'm like, we don't have anything.
There ain't nothing to take. They're going to go hungry with us.
So that was a scary time. But I mean, even the transition to farmers, like, I had sold those businesses, but taking the money that I had and reinvesting. And I feel like, different business products we've done. I've bought 4 books at Farmers. We're going on a 5th now we're working on.
Wow.
So every time you do that, mergers, setting up other locations, there's always that fear. And you have that little temptation, but like, nah, things are pretty good. Why don't I just stay here? And it's like, no, you got to keep pushing forward. You have a target, you have a vision, you got to take that step.
Ooh. Take that one to the bank. That one was good. Cool, man. So you're working on your, you said 5th book with Farmers. I'm curious if you don't mind. I mean, and if you're like, hey, I'm not touching that one with a 10 football. Like, what was the reason? Like, why go from one to the other? Like, what made you go into Farmers? Was it like the comp plan better? Because I do want to go back and double click one time real quick before you answer that. Is when Josiah was telling you guys about the revenues, you'll hear in insurance business a lot because you guys know I'm getting more and more insurance agents on here to talk with you guys because I do think it's a great business. Like Kevin Span's an Allstate guy, and like he's like, this is one of the best industries to get in that no guidance counselor ever guides a kid into, right? Like no kid. It's like, oh, you're in insurance. What went wrong in your life, right? Like it's like no, but it's such
no
a great.
No one grows up dreaming of being an insurance agent.
Which is crazy because you guys golf like twice a week, and like it's a great business. But I digress. When you were talking, I want my listeners to know, especially guys that aren't in the insurance space, is that you'll have premium, which is like what your customer is paying for the policy. They don't keep that. You go write a $500 a month check to your insurance guy. He's not just taking that and going and starting a bar tab. He's more than likely going to get roundabouts 8 to 10%, could be higher, could be less. So that's where when Josiah's like, hey, you got $200,000 in revenue coming. Okay, cool. That's probably going to be on a $2 million premium book of business, and then you're going to pay a multiple on that revenue. You also will sometimes hear EBITDA, which I've got episodes where I've talked about the importance of EBITDA and understanding that, especially if you're in the merger space, because sometimes it's better to get a multiple on EBITDA than it is on revenue. You could actually end up making more money for your business. So I digress from all of that to say, what was the reason, man? Was there just do you see an exit opportunity for farmers? Like, is there a bigger thing down the road you're playing 3 steps ahead? Or like, share a little bit of that with us.
So yeah, at Allstate, I was there just over 3 years. I felt like when I had come in, the valuations were pretty high, and some of the changes that Allstate was doing, there was some different management that was going on. I didn't feel awesome about the long-term future, right? I looked like, okay, where does this look like 20 years from now? They had come out, talked about how they felt about what role the agent would play in the distribution model, maybe not being center stage anymore. And I thought, man, if I'm going to sell, this is probably a really opportune time. I had grown that from $6 million in premium to about $13.5 million in premium organically over 3 years. I already had some offers for some pretty good multiples, so it made sense to say I feel like I'm probably at the top of this particular market. So that's why I sold. And then farmers, I really do like the direction of the company. I really do like the leadership. And yeah, the contracts were pretty crazy. So you're right. Cool. We have premiums on those. We collect about 10% on the renewal. Oh. And when we write a policy, we have a chance for some enhanced compensation where we might get 18 to 24% whenever we sell a policy. So it was a really good contract.
Nice. Yeah, because we've last year we have been building. I've been building Carroll Media since 2016, and we've mainly started with we can't say their name, and we're Big Red. We'll call them that. We all know who we're talking about. And they said, please do not say our name anymore, Coach Carroll. We'd appreciate that. I was like, yeah, that's fine. So we started in that business, but like I thought like a captive agent is a captive agent is a captive agent. Hell, I didn't have any idea, right? Mm-hmm. I meet Craig Wiggins. I actually met Joseph Puckett at an event we were at. He tells me about Craig, and then like next thing I know, like I'm like, we're almost half of our clients now are non-Big Red clients, and you guys have so much. Like, to me, like I know I got some of my Red Team boys that listen, and we appreciate y'all, but like, you can't sell your book of business, compliance up your ass. Like, I mean, it's crazy. And so that's why I was curious of your feedback, because I also heard that Allstate last year, they were paying like 23% on new business. And again, incentivizing you guys to go get new policies, get it while the getting's good. So that's cool, man. I like to hear that things are working out well for you guys and you're crushing it. I mean, that's why you're growing, right? Like, that's the whole point. It's like you're incentivized to grow your book of business, not just sit on it.
They've structured it in such a way, and really, I mean, even a few years ago, Farmers wasn't even big on internal acquisition, so a lot of that's changed for them, and they're okay with it now if you're doing a good job. And so there's just been a lot of opportunity. The multiples are really competitive to come in and buy. I looked at the independent space, and you probably know, in the independent space, people are paying 4 times revenue, 7-8 times EBITDA. And, I was able to come in here and buy books for 1.25, 1.5 times, and you're just cash flowing immediately. And resources to work. And you could just see it's like, man, it makes so much sense to acquire and use that revenue as a stable base to grow off of.
I love that, because I'm a huge fan of acquisition. So in my power washing window cleaning business that I still have, I started Lawn Care. Easy Pro is my company. Started my senior year of high school, right? We added on a bunch of different services. Then I started trimming services that weren't as profitable. We end up, it's not a huge company. I think we did $600,000 last year top line revenue, but I'm like an Airbnb model now. I don't own a pressure washer. Everything is contracted out, right? It's like I'm one of the largest power washing companies in the U.S. that doesn't own a pressure washer. And so so with us, it's like we grew through acquisition. We've got about 8,000 clients in our database, and like we don't market anymore, man. And I tell people about this. It's like that's the power of truly building a brand. I mean, we had Stitzel Weller as one of our clients, right? Like the Weller, Pappy Weller, right? They're one of our clients. They emailed me this morning. They're like, "Hey, just need to get this scheduled again. It's an $18,000 deal." You know what I mean? Like that. Not like I didn't sell anything. They're just like they're placing an order almost at that point. And that's the power of building a brand. I'm curious. I wonder where your thought process is through acquisitions, because I've grown, and sometimes when you got multiple brands, it's a little easier, right? They're all farmers books, so you're not having to like deal with a bunch of different independent brands. But how does branding play into your acquisition, your growth strategy? How are you strategic around building out that brand? Is it the personal Josiah Hartley brand? Is it is it the Josiah Insurance brand? Like how's that play out for you? I think that would be very valuable to the listeners.
So we're farmers agents, right? And so farmers is the brand, but we have some flex in there with the company. So my company is Hartley Agency.
Okay.
And so the push there really is we're promoting our scale and our service. So as we take over an agency and buy something, a lot of times we buy it, it's an owner, might be one or two staff. It's usually a smaller operation. And so we will take over that. We will fold it into our agency.
Nice.
And people think they like, oh no, I want to know my agent have that, small town mom and pop feels. Like you don't, because what happens is they're on the phone, you don't get service, all those things. We bring you into the fold. And now we've got a large team. We've got a sales team, outbound callers. We've got a customer service account management team. They're answering the calls. They're getting you back with information. They're following up with you at renewal. And so we're pushing the scale and the service capacity by being a larger brand within a brand.
Wow.
We always say not all farmers agents are the same. Some of them have 10 customers. Some of them have just the owner and an unlicensed assistant. We have departments, we have teams to take care of you. When there's a claim, when you have questions, we're able to do that. So it's a brand within a brand.
I like that. And what's the main ways that you guys are kind of promoting that out there? Because I talk to some agents, they're like, I don't spend anything on advertising. I don't do any marketing. It's like referral based. We just work our book. I met who's the cat out of Texas, younger kid that was at the event. Dude's like buying $20,000 a month worth of leads. I was like, what? Like we're like washing our hands in the bathroom, and I was like, yeah, man. It's like, what do you? Obviously, I'm in the marketing space. Like, what do you guys do? He's like, oh, we buy like 20 grand worth of leads last month. I was like, what? Last month? Like
we spend 12 to 14,000. Yeah, we do
man.
each month. But that generates again 350, 400,000 a month in sales.
Yeah.
And so we're getting a piece of that, right? We get a percentage of that. But we do I call it online consumer data. And so that's split between leads, people that input their information online. We're buying traffic off of Google with landing pages, and we're doing live transfers where a company actually, calls us and tees in a customer for us who wants a quote. And we're doing, homeowners insurance, auto insurance, some commercial insurance.
Nice.
But yeah, it's about 12 to 14 grand a month in order to grow, because that's part of when you do an acquisition, right? You buy the business.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're within a brand like Farmers, they're looking at what you're doing for them. Okay, you got approved, you did an acquisition. How are you taking care of that customer base? Are you absorbing the money and going backwards and losing market share? Or are you actually growing that for the company? And you're kind of earning the opportunity to go out and continue to acquire because they like what they see you doing with their customer base.
Yeah, man. I love take that one to the bank too. Put a little cha-ching on that one, because listen, guys. The whole point of the Sales Factory, when we were like, okay, let's up this show. Let's get some real players in. Not that any of our past guests weren't big players. We've had them on here, but I'm trying to find the best of the best. And as we continue to build Carroll Media, and we're working with tons of insurance agents, and we're going to expand into real estate agents as well. The whole modern marketing for agents premise is like, I want to also be a resource for agents, because there's a lot of agents that will work with us that are just getting started. And I think bringing them information like you're doing right now, Josiah, is very, very helpful. Let's talk about, I want to kind of pivot, because you mentioned the dad bod. Do you have kids?
I do. I have a 7-year-old and one who's about to be 9.
Dude, if you guys are watching the video right now, you just saw this guy's face light up. He smiled bigger than he smiled the whole podcast.
Man, you know what? This is off subject, DJ, but we had a good weekend. My older one, she's been opposed to riding a bike. It's hard for her. She kept on falling and stuff. And this weekend we were working on it, and we got like 3 cuts on the back of the leg from the pedal, and we ate it pretty hard and took out the knee. And by the end of the day, Sunday, she was completely riding on her own, starting, stopping, riding on her own. And she was like, the confidence level, man, she was lighting up and high-fiving me and just seeing her work through the pain. And I'm like, man, like it was a good weekend to be a dad.
Hell yeah, man. I love that. And I for the longest time I was like, I'm never gonna get married, I'm never gonna have kids, right? And then I found like this awesome woman that put up with me for 10 years while I was waiting around. Finally got married, had her baby, and moved all in the last 12 months. So like we're fucking nuts. And remodeled the house that we moved into. So like it's crazy. But I'll tell you that when Willow was born, so she'll be 10 months this week actually on the 19th. When Willow was born, I was like, I'm going to take off 3 weeks, just spend time. Bro, it was so hard for me because I was like ready to run through brick walls and play the game of business like I've never played it before in my life. There was like this, like, just this new driver, this new motivation. And I've heard it from people a lot, like when they have a hard time finding their life purpose, a lot of times people say, well, my kids are my life purpose. And I always say, I'm like, spend time and like figure out what you want to do for you, and if it is being a dad or a mom, like cool. If that's what you want to hang your hat on, totally okay with that. That's fine. But man, I got to tell you, it's a fucking X factor. And I had no idea before having a baby, and also the respect I got for my wife because, like, she went natural. And I'm like, bad bitch alert. Like, it was like, I had a whole new level of, like, love and respect for her.
Crazy.
And just to see you light up, bro, like I just know, like that shows me you're a good dad. Like you like, yeah, highlight. What he didn't say Super Bowl. He said little baby girl's riding a bicycle by herself now. I'm like, let's go.
But to your point, I bring my kids to work when I can. I tell them a lot of what I do, and they know, dad does this, and he helps protect people, But I talk about the business, and to the point where my kids are 7 and 8, going on 9, and they'll ask me, how's the new girl working? Is she doing a good job? Has it been good? Have you had to have hard conversations? Because I talk to them like this, even at their age. I want them to know.
Yeah, man.
I do a lot of public speaking now, and I talk to them about my struggles and how I was so nervous when I started public speaking. But dad had to work, he had to practice, he had to go work through his fears, and then they relate to that at school. I have a presentation. Well, remember when you were scared, Dad? Can you help me practice? And it's not that they're your purpose, I think, but they're watching you. So it's like you're modeling for them. You're modeling who they're going to become.
Yeah, man.
I think that's super powerful.
I love it. Yeah, it's funny because I'm like, I can't wait. I grew up very humble beginnings. Like my dad was a trash man. Like when he worked for like Department of Public Works in Indianapolis. My mom was in insurance for a bit, but she mainly took care of me and my brother. And it was kind of crazy because it's like I want to make sure she knows all of the stuff that like no one's going to teach her unless I do, right? And it's like, and I don't, and a lot of people are like, oh, like money and business. Like, no, like fucking mental manifestation, like setting goals, like believing in yourself when nobody else does. That
resiliency.
is what's that?
Resiliency.
Yeah. See?
Getting back up.
That's it. Yeah. Fall 10 times, get up 11.
That's right.
Or 20 and 21, right? Or however many times it took, right?
It takes that sometimes, man.
That's cool, man. Let's talk about. We talked a little bit about acquisitions. When you're looking at acquisitions, because like this is huge for me. We're actually we're looking to do a couple acquisitions this year in the marketing, advertising, media space. When you guys are looking at acquisitions, do you kind of have like a checkbox? If I remember correctly from your speech in Phoenix, you were kind of like, I kick it to the banker, and like if it's a good deal, they're gonna let me do it. Was that you that were saying that?
I have a general framework, but I work so closely with some of the banks I use, and we have such a good relationship at this point. So I'm like, I have a kind of a checklist. I'm looking for, I don't want brand new businesses. I want older so they're not volatile. I want a certain level of retention. I like businesses that have been active for a certain period of time. So there's a few things I check for. A certain amount of revenue. It's like a threshold where bothered otherwise.
It's got to be big enough.
So it has to be big enough to take our time because we grow so quickly. It has to make sense, right? Once I do that, though, I'm in partnership with the banks that I work with. I will send it to them, and they know exactly what we want to do, and we kind of partner on that due diligence. But yeah, I'm looking for tenure. I'm looking for retention. I'm looking for certain tiers of revenue for it to make sense.
Nice.
And then I want to have a relationship with the seller. I've found that when I have quality sellers that I can leave a little money on the table if need be for us to have a great relationship. That really helps with the transition. I've had the pleasure of dealing with some sellers who are fantastic. And, it's 6 months after the deal and it's like, hey, X commercial customer called my cell phone. He's frustrated about this. I helped him with this and talked him through it. I'm passing him back to you just so you know. And it's like they'll do that for us because of how we treated them during the process.
It's crazy because there's an independent guy down in Bowling Green, big agency. He's got multiple offices, and he's very much in the idea of like acquisitions. Go find these guys that have been in the industry for 30 years, because they want nothing more than to find the mentee to come along and to keep carrying that torch. And he told me, he was like, that's a big piece of his negotiating, is that piece of the story of like, look, man, I'm not going to let your legacy die. Like, I'm going to keep this thing going. And like, he was like, that will help me close a deal, because that is part of it. It's not just all about money. Because if you're buying a successful book, they already kind of got some money. Like, that's kind of the point, right? Like, they're ready to exit. So that's cool that's a piece of it. And then, do you work with Wintrust by chance? Not to put you on the spot. But I do. Okay. They were a sponsor, so I figured that was like.
That's who I work with.
Okay.
And so they did, in a different capacity, same people, same bank, just a long time ago. They did my first ever deal back at Allstate.
Wow.
And so I've been dealing with them, and now they've transitioned and they're able to do other captive agencies. So they're doing all my farmers deals. And so I've worked with them closely, and phenomenal team. They know how I do business, and we're at the point where some documents, a phone call, they'll make sure it makes sense for them as far as a risk perspective, but they've been fantastic.
Yeah. That one, man, during your presentation, that one like clicked, was like, if the bank says you're good, like they're not going to put themselves at risk. Like, it's like, it's almost one of those, like, you don't have to be scared anymore. Like, yeah, sure, you can be scared like while you're in the middle, but like if the bank's like, no, that thing's going to cash flow, like they're not going to give you a loan that they're not going to make their money back on. Like they wouldn't be in business.
It's a great negotiation strategy too, because I won't say, well, no, I'm not going to pay that. That makes me the bad guy. I'll say, hey, the banks that I work with, this is what they see as a fair valuation. I will pay whatever that valuation is that the bank recommends. They're professionals, but it wouldn't make sense for me to pay more than that. Surely you understand, why would I pay more than the bank would value an asset at, right? And so we kind of put it towards them, and that usually works well.
Hold on. Take that one. He said, surely you understand. That's a little call and response on that. A little sales training in a sales factory for you people listening right now. I like that. No, man, that's cool. And, I think from what I've learned, Wintrust is a great partner for many agents in the space, and so shout out to them. They've invited us to several events, and it's been fun. We'll be at the Midwest Agents Forum. I don't know when the people are listening to this. Maybe it's 3 years down the road. And I've been long gone from the Midwest Agents Forum. We'll be there at the end of or beginning of March, so in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. But cool, man. So we talked acquisitions. Let's talk about building a team, because I know like this is what I hear all the time, and like nothing irks me more to my core because I was a bad boss for many, many years. When I had my lawn and landscape company, I hired and fired 300 people in 2.5 years. Like, I can turn and burn like a jet fighter if we need to, but we had what was called the mirror test. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this before, but basically we'd put out an ad, and then when they come in for their interview, I would have them breathe on a mirror. If it fogged up, you're hired. Go get in the truck, right? Quickly learned that was not the proper onboarding and acquisition strategy for new team members, and so we've changed. Company culture has become a big thing for me. Josiah, I'll share with you. I know our listeners know this probably by heart, just like my team does, but our core values are growth, innovation, velocity, and excellence. The acronym spells out GIVE. Once a quarter, we do a GIVE project with a local abused women's shelter. Like, it's all through us. It's how I manage through the core values. And I used to think that core values are like, dude, I gave you a paycheck. Like, what do you get out of here? You want a top golf day? I'm not. But it's like, what I've realized is if you can build a company culture that people want to be a part of, whether the boss is there or not, like, it's not about the boss anymore. It's about the team and the overall mission. Man, you go from like trying to find people to attracting people. And then you get those those A players that are like, hey, I like what you're building over here. I'd like to come with you. And I'll end with this and kick it back to you. It's like a lot of times when I get on calls with agents, and we'll talk about marketing, advertising, because obviously we'll do their social media or whatever, but they're like, yeah, man, I can't find employees. They're all fucking lazy, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I bet you're an asshole to work for. Maybe that's why you can't find employees. And I know you probably have had those conversations with those types of agents too, right? It's like, nobody wants to show up to work. It's like, bro, you only come to work on Tuesday and Thursday. What are you talking about? Like, and you're mad at your team members. So school us, bro. Give us some stuff that can help us build some teams. Like, give us a couple secrets you got in the back pocket of, if we're doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? Building a team's building a team, man. If it's the 97 Bulls or if it's the Hartley agency, it's like, it's like whatever it takes. Give us some insights that you've got over, your 7 years of experience and through the acquisitions, because that's definitely a different game changer building team members, I'm sure.
Well, I love what you said there, because I do have a lot of conversations with business owners, and I hear it so frequently from people who are struggling, and they'll talk about how they can't find employees in the same breath as they talk about how lazy and terrible everyone is, how they don't want to work. And I'm just thinking, gosh, of course that's what you're finding. That's how you view your people.
Yeah.
You don't view your team as an asset. So we're huge on recruiting A players. So I told you, some of my numbers. We did 391,000 last month. That's with 4 salespeople. That's across 4 people. So they're doing high 80s, low 90s at this point on average per person. But we hire sales professionals. We don't hire people looking for a job who do a little bit of insurance. We're looking for people who are already very good. We talk about the move from good to great. I can take someone who's good and we can give them processes and tools to make them great. I can't take someone who's terrible and make them decent. We're not in that business.
I like that.
Model. So we're looking for A players. And I tell people all the time, A players do not work for B owners. So if you are not...
Hold on. Say that one again for the people in the back not listening.
A players don't work for B owners. So if you're not an A-level owner and you haven't done the work on yourself, you're not going to be able to attract and retain A-level talent. So I was not that when I first started Allstate. So I had to do tons of work on myself. I mean, reading 50, 60 books a year on sales and management, now moving more into business strategy, acquisitions, learning how to lead people, how to have honest, transparent, tough communication, right? In a respectful way, but be able to communicate directly so people understand how to build teams and how to build trust in an organization, how to have a standard of excellence that you hold people to that standard of excellence.
Speaking of my core values there, baby. I like standard of excellence.
I talk about it a lot, and people love that as a core value until you tell them what it looks like if they actually implement it and hold people accountable. I'll tell you the story. I was with a very, very large company, Fortune 500 company. I was doing some strategy with the company. I was invited, and we're having a conversation about marketing and core values. And I mentioned one of ours is a standard of excellence. And their head of marketing, chief marketing officer, said, "Oh, I love that." Writes it down. And I said, well, the problem is, if you make that a core value, you have to hold people to it, which means that if work product is not excellent, you have to get rid of it or get rid of them. And they go, that's a good point. And they scratched it out.
They're like, fuck that. We got too many employees to be dealing with that shit.
It's hard. It's hard. But if you want to have a culture that actually believes that, not only do you have to hire people who can exhibit that, but you have to hold everyone accountable. It starts with ourselves. It starts with us and how we lead the company.
Yeah, man. I love that. And talk. I want to like let's spend a couple more minutes on that excellence piece. Like, what's that look like inside your business?
So one of the things we talk about is there's a lot of things that are technical skills in insurance, right? If you're on the customer service account management team, you got to know how insurance works. You got to understand how the systems works, paying bills. If you're doing sales, you got to know how to sell the policy, what the coverages mean. Those are all technical skills. What's not a skill is attitude. Attitude's a choice. So when we start talking about a standard of excellence, it starts with behavior and attitude, and we build the technical skills on top of it. When we hire people who are already talented, who are already good at what they do, they have a lot of technical skill. So what we're giving them is marketing. We're giving them extra training. We're giving them our processes. But man, we hold attitude serious. We've had conversations. We'll tell the team, I am highly sensitive to negativity. You can make a mistake on a policy. We can get it fixed. We've had scares where we almost had an E&O, and I'm not mad. Mistakes happen. Let's work through it and solve the problem, not repeat it. What will piss me off is someone coming in and saying, it's Monday. Oh man, you can't do that in my business because it's a privilege to work here. You've mowed lawns. I've mowed lawns. We've done that work. We are making good money, taking care of people. It's a great opportunity. And your attitude, your behavior is a choice. It's not a skill you choose what that's going to be every day.
I like that a lot, man. Give another one to the bank on that one. I like that, man. That's good. See, this is why people should listen to the Sales Factory. That's some double click. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's great, and culture of excellence. On to the next topic. It's like, no, like tell me exactly how you're using that. And it's like it's the attitude. It's because I think it is. You can. it's kind of like one of those things where it's you can teach skill. I would say maybe if you're a really good teacher, you can teach some will, but that's like baked in. Like you're either just hungry or you're not, man. I think a lot of people, it's easier for them. I got a Gary V sticker in my office here that says that complaining is easy, execution is hard. And it's so much easier just to be like, oh, it's just rough, it's just a bad day. Oh, he's gonna. It's like, no, man. Like if you lose, it should bother you, and if it doesn't bother you, I don't want you playing on my team because I'm trying to go win championships. And if you don't want to win championships, then like go play for the Colts. I love the Colts. They're my team, but god dang it, we can't win the freaking playoff game, save our life. All right, we won't get started on that one, Josiah.
I think you're right. On our sales side, if the teammates are doing 70 to 80,000 a month and someone does 35, and let's say they didn't have the flu or something, and they come in my office and they go, man, that was a tough month. I am not going to say, that's okay, you'll get them next time, Tiger. No, I'm going to say, well, what went wrong? What could you have done differently? What are we going to do about it now? Because that's what coaching is. It's like we're not going to make excuses for why it went bad. We're going to figure out what we can do to get better, and being able to have those transparent conversations, not in a way that's rude or disrespectful or threatening, but like a coach would, like someone who's leading a sports team, right?
Yeah, man.
Like, hey, we do excellent around here. You're an excellent person. That's why you're on the team. So you tell me, what can we do differently to change that outcome next month?
Yeah. Let's. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
So let's dive into it because you're the Andy Reid Travis Kelce thing. What is that, disrespect? Is it passion? A little bit of both? What's your take on that? Give me the hot take.
I think it was definitely done in a moment of passion and frustration. I still think it's over the line because the coach is the coach, right? You want to do that in the corner to somebody else or a teammate maybe or whatever. At the end of the day, the coach makes those calls, and there's a hierarchy there, and I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to I played football, so I think they need to understand the context of why he was so mad. They pulled him out that prior play, and then they ran the little sweep out. Kelce would have been the one blocking. The guy that came in for him missed the block, and that's why it wasn't a touchdown, right? And so it wasn't that, I've seen it got misconstrued of like, yeah, this is what your guy just was mad because he wasn't playing. It's like, no, like, because if we go back to that excellence conversation, right, it's like Travis Kelce holds himself to a certain level that says, if my job on this play is to block and not catch the touchdown pass, I'm putting that guy on the ground. Like, that is my excellence. I've got to execute, right? And I think that got you add that on top of the Super Bowl. He's probably thinking, why the hell did you pull me out? And I love that I haven't seen the take on this either. Is the coach was probably like, damn, yeah, I probably should have had him in there. Like, that's probably why Andy Reid was so upset about it. Was he probably knew that, like, yeah, I had the wrong blocker in there. That's cool, man.
Whether or not he handles it well, those are the people you want on your team because they care so much.
Yeah.
Whether or not you should display it that way, it's because they care so much. So I think as a coach, you might have some conversation of that's not okay, that's not allowed.
Right.
But you kind of know deep down it's like there's passion there. He cares that much about this game.
For sure. I had a high school basketball coach that used to always tell me that being a sore loser is not a bad thing. Like, I used to be the worst one on the team. We lost a game, and I didn't even play that much. Like, I was more of a football player than a basketball player. It was like, I would be so upset. I'm like, don't talk to me on the bus ride home, bro. Like, I don't want to hear about, like, what happened in third period today with your girlfriend because we just got our asses handed to us in Williamstown. Like, so I'm going to sit on the bus quiet for the next 45 minutes and sulk about it. And, and it's because I'm so competitive. If you do strength finders with your team, like, I'm like, competition is the highest one for me, and so it's like, that's just who I am, and sometimes people are just wired that way. Plus, bro, like, you're playing for the Super Bowl. I like seeing that you're upset because honestly, that I think the team needed that because they were a little fuzzy, man, coming out the gate. Like, it was like, do you all realize this is not like a regular season game and this is like the big one?
Yeah, you can't operate at 80% here.
No, man, no. Awesome. That's good. I like that, man. Well, cool. We're about out of time here. I want to kind of close this thing out, wrap some stuff up. Always like to ask for, not always, most of the time I like to ask for recommendations if I remember. So what's the latest book that you read?
Latest book that I've read would be The Outsiders. It's a story of kind of a high-level view of 8 unconventional CEOs that delivered outsized returns. And it's a profile on how they do in comparison to the stock market. It's a phenomenal book. I've read it 3 or 4 times,
Wow.
highlighted through it. And there's a chapter there on John Malone and Henry Singleton, who both pioneered really acquisitions in their industry. You'd probably love it.
Yeah, man. It's called Outsiders
The Outsiders.
Siders. Okay. Write that one down. Very cool. And like come out, my gears are over here turning. I'm like, ooh, acquisitions. 'Cause I just love it. Like I've bought 7 other power washing companies and rolled them up because it's like, it's just like, to me it's like what I can spend to buy a customer list versus like what I can pay for a customer. It's really easy, and it's funny because anytime we take on a new client, like when they sign up, there's a client intake form, and we ask them, do you know your customer acquisition cost? Do you know your LTV, your lifetime value? And the amount of agents that say no and no. But then when they cancel, they're like, well, I'm just not seeing the ROI. I'm like, you don't even know the LTV or the CAC of your customer. You're going to tell me you don't see the ROI? Like, it's like
we have those conversations on marketing. I'm like, do you buy leads? They're like, no, they're expensive. I'm like, oh, well, what's your cost per sale? Well, I don't know. Well, how do you know they're expensive? Well, they're $10 each. But that's just the price. What if you sold all of them?
Right, man. It's crazy when, and I'm a huge proponent. I tell my team this all the time. You don't know what you don't know. Like, that is one of my favorite sayings in the world. And adamantly, like, as the boss, I didn't used to be this way because I had this little thing on my shoulder called an ego. But like, I'm totally okay just being the dumbest one in the meeting. Like, yeah, I don't know why. Ask him why. And like getting your team energized and like letting them solve things, man. I've got one team member right now. He just had a kid last year as well, and like, dude, he's just taking off. And I'm feeding him. I'm like, here's more responsibility. I think I just want to. I'll go back. I jump around a lot in my podcast, but when you said hiring A players, a lot of times people will find an A player and they'll hire them, but then they cap them. They don't give them responsibility. They don't give them room to grow, and then they leave. And then people are like, "Well, I don't know why they left. I guess he found a better job or something." It's like, no,
glass ceiling.
Oh, glass ceiling.
So one of the reasons that I'm very transparent with my numbers with our team, they know our size, they know all these things, and we have big goals and big targets, and they're big audacious goals. But I tell you, they have to be, because if I'm going to have A players, I have to scale the company fast enough that we create the need for new positions for them to grow and fill. Otherwise, they're going to leave and go somewhere else and go somewhere bigger as they get those skills. If they're that talented, they have to grow too. So I have a responsibility to them to scale the business, to create the opportunity inside the company so they don't hit a glass ceiling.
I love that. Dude, I feel like this could definitely – we only have an hour marked out here, but like this could have easily been a Joe Rogan 3-hour podcast. Yeah, sometimes I get guests on. I'm like, okay, this interview, I'm going to wrap this fucking thing up. But sometimes like I get guys on here and we just start chopping back and forth, bro. And it's fun, man. And I know that we help a lot of people with it. This information will help somebody today that's like, all right, fine, I'll make some core values in my business. Damn it. It's like, but it's like you don't realize, again, you don't know what you don't know. When I used to think like core values were a waste of time because it's like this like esoteric, warm, fuzzy thing. It's like, no, man, because when your core values are on point, everybody buys in. Now it's not DJ has a problem with you. I'm not going to like, Coach Carroll's got to talk to you for a second because like you're not performing well. I go, hey, man, one of our core values is velocity, right? Yeah, velocity. And that's speed in the right direction. And look, man, I'm not saying you're not moving fast because you're hauling ass right now, and I appreciate that. But would you think that it's like if you took it like a 30,000-foot view, do you think it's in the right direction? No, you're right, man. I probably need to slow down a little bit, make a little heading adjustment there. And now it's not a conversation of like, I don't like you or you're not doing. It's like, no, man, these are how these are the core values that guide the company, that guide everybody. And so like, if you're not in line with them, I'm just going to pull you back in.
Beautiful.
That's
so
a
good,
huge, that's so big, man.
It takes all the feelings out of it. It's not, I feel like you're not doing good. There's no conversation of that. It's just where you measure up against the core value. So now the core value is holding them accountable, not the owner.
Yeah, man. I'll give you this one too, Josiah, because I don't think I've talked about this on my podcast before. I fly airplanes. I'm crazy. I speak on stages, fly airplanes. Just don't come at me with the needle. I'm scared to death of needles. So I came up with this thing in aviation. If you're 1 degree off course over an hour, it puts you 5 miles off of your target. Right? So 1 degree for an hour puts you 5 miles off course. So what we started doing was once a month, my integrator, we were on EOS, my integrator, she meets with every single team member, and we have what's called a heading adjustment. And we check the heading, make adjustments if necessary, and we get feedback. And what's happened is we have them rate their job satisfaction score every single month. Most people do this like once a year during performance evaluations, right? It's like, no, every single month. You know what happens, bro? Like if somebody's like, I'm a 7 this month. It's like, well, you were at 8.5 last month. What happened? Well, my dad's sick. I'm just not all there. It's like, dude, it started uncovering stuff to now if like somebody's not performing, I don't go jump down their throat. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Oh, look at their heading adjustment. Their dad's sick. They took 2 days off this month because he was in the hospital. Maybe instead of like saying, hey, your numbers weren't where they should be, I'm just going to say, hey, man, I hope your dad's doing all right. And is there anything I can do to help pick up the slack this month for you? Like being a better leader, bro, is the challenge. It's not being the better boss. It's being the better leader. And if you're a better leader, you'll be a better boss as a result.
Love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man. Cool, dude. Thanks for coming here. This is freaking awesome. If people want to and listen, like you're on the short list, bro. You'll be back. I'll get you back. This was too much fun, too easy. How can people find you if they want to look you up? You know, obviously social media is huge for us. We do a ton with agents, but like, how can people find you?
LinkedIn's my main thing, and then my Facebook. I use Instagram a little bit, but LinkedIn and Facebook are my main places to hang.
Solid, man. Solid. And we'll guys, if you're listening to this, we'll leave a note there. We'll tag Josiah's social so that you can find him real easy. And man, I appreciate you coming into the Sales Factory, Josiah. It's been fun, baby.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, baby. Hey, you guys listen to another episode of the Sales Factory. You know what to do. Smash the subscribe button. Hit the review if you haven't done so. It helps us find other people so we can change the world one life at a time. Let's go, Coach Carroll. I'm out. Hustle, it's worth it.